If one of your elderly relatives was rushed into hospital tonight, how confident are you that they would get a bed or a stretcher in a corridor?
Sarah, I feel sure they would get the best service possible, because I think the staff in the NHS do an incredible job under very, very difficult circumstances. We put them in an invidious position where they have to make life or death decisions and tell families things that they really shouldn't be if we had better funding. But you've got to ask yourself what the priorities of the National Health Service are. Here in Torbay, they're just cutting 32 beds from Torbay Hospital. They've lost 44 beds in the community hospitals in Paynton, Dartmouth, Bovey Tracy and Ashburton. And the reason that was given for closing these beds in Torbay Hospital was that they're sending the care into the community, which is a good idea. But you'd think at a time now when there's a lack of beds in the National Health Service, they would do that but keep the beds to take up the slack. So they haven't done that. So the question is this just a cost-cutting exercise? And if it is a cost-cutting exercise, then we have to ask ourselves why the British government spends a lower percentage of GDP than the European Union average on health, less than Germany, less than France. Why is that? What do the French and the Germans do that allows them to spend more money than we do, despite the amount of money that has already been said?
Me?
Yes, you.
I am gravely concerned about, as Billy was saying, we have the closure of 4 local hospitals. I grew up in Dartmouth. I've had many relatives that have been treated in that hospital as
in Torbay?
In Dartmouth Hospital,
Dartmouth
Hospital, as they became elderly and needed care. Obviously, it's a long way to travel for them to get to Torbay, a long way for relatives to travel. I personally would be very keen on paying extra money in taxes to preserve that for my children and my family.
You in the front here.
Making a comment like she was just saying, obviously with elderly people moving down from everywhere else in the country, coming down to Devon, shutting small little hospitals that they can't get to is probably going to be a real big mistake, because obviously they can't get to big hospitals, they can only get to small hospitals. And my granddad, who only just passed away a couple of years ago, he could only get to Dartmouth because he couldn't make the journey to bigger hospitals.
What, to Torquay?
Yeah, no, Dartmouth Hospital.
Yeah.
He only liked Dartmouth Hospital, so he wanted to obviously go to that one, and that was where the treatment was. So shutting small little hospitals all over the country is
the argument is always used that as treatment gets more sophisticated, you need bigger and bigger hospitals.
But you need both.
But you also need community hospitals as well to keep them going.
Country buses as well. There's a fundamental problem that we have to face with the National Health Service, and it's to do with us, all of us in this room and everybody watching. We have voted continuously over the last 30 years for parties, both Labour and Conservatives, I'm afraid, that have said we can have low taxes and great health service and great social care. And we've kidded ourselves that we can have that. As soon as we wake up from that dream and recognise that we will only get the social care and the health service that we pay for, then we can really start addressing these problems.